Let's talk about America. Let's talk about the United States of America. This was the epiphany I had today. When we look at America, we're looking at arguably a melting pot. We have people here from all different backgrounds and national origins, etc. And it's interesting to look at our economy, how it has historically been built, how it's come together when you look at it today versus even when it was newer. Here's what I was thinking about today. Let's specifically talk about people of Mexican descent as well as people of Hebrew descent, Jewish people. I think it's very important and relevant because if you take those two groups out of our equation, things would be a lot different here in the United States. So for example, it's no secret, when you look through the history of business, look at the Jewish businessmen specifically. I mean, it's no secret, the entertainment industry alone. When you look at Hollywood, how it was founded, how it started, and even now, good luck watching the credits roll and finding an absence of Jewish names on there. That's how it works. Forget about that, then let's just talk about regular business. Let's talk about Starbucks. Yeah, sure enough, the CEO of Starbucks, Jewish. But across the board, it's hard. Banks, yeah, look at all those names. They're Jewish. That's not a surprise to us. Because who is ultimately starting these companies and running these companies? There are a lot of Jewish businessmen specifically. Even though Jewish people are a minority here in the United States, it's definitely not that way when you look at who is actually running the businesses and starting these businesses. That's not a coincidence. That is culturally, demographically something that has occurred. As Jewish people were expelled from wherever they were before in the world, they came to America and they found opportunity and they seized it and they thrived in it. Okay? But on another perspective of our economy and business, let's look at Mexican workers. Now, what I'm about to say may sound politically incorrect. It makes us feel uncomfortable. But yet we have to realize there's truth in it. When you look at our workforce, if you were to take out the Mexican population, now, to be clear, I'm being general because I am talking about illegal immigrants who came here from Mexico. I'm also talking about people who were born here that their parents brought them here, so therefore that makes them first generation American, especially if their main language is Spanish. Either way, of Mexican descent, even if they are a United States citizen, when we look at, this is where it's about to get uncomfortable but real. So if it's too real for you, go ahead and turn off the video, but let's have an honest conversation. When we look at who is cleaning the hotels, when we look at who is working out in the fields picking fruit and vegetables, when we look at who is working at the slaughterhouses, killing those cows, when we're looking at those type of things, when we're looking at who is building our buildings, we're looking at predominantly people of Mexican descent. So they are the builders, they are the movers and the shakers from the ground up. And then when you look at the very top, who's starting these businesses? Jewish people. And I think that's interesting because if we're being honest, we take Jewish people and Mexican descent to people out of the equation, things would be different. So it's interesting to imagine, not a coincidence, it's demographics. It's groups of people who are doing what their skill set and ultimately their history has taught them to do in order to be successful. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised that in reality, Mexican workers are the hardest workers I know. And I've made videos about it before. I live in the Nashville, Tennessee area. There's a large population of homeless people here. But what you will not see is a Mexican homeless person or even Hispanic descent in general, but specifically Mexican. You're not going to see it. You're going to see other people represented there, but you're not going to see Mexican people. Because my theory is specifically Mexican people have a very strong sense of community and work ethic, as do Jewish people, but it's more on the executive end. It's more about creating companies and running those companies. So it's very interesting to see at different sides of the spectrum. It's not to say that one's more important than the other. By all means, you can't have one without the other. I think it's interesting in the business model to see how they're connected, maybe indirectly. Maybe there's several steps in between, but they need each other. And I think that's interesting. Is anyone willing to agree with me on this? Because I think it's undeniable.